Again, if you're just joining us, welcome to the School and District Committee Orientation. You're in the right place if you are a member of our district committees or a member of the school site council. We're glad you're here. And again, in the webinar chat, you should see a link to the agenda in both English and Spanish.
Si ustedes son nuevos o son miembros de alguno de los comités de la escuela, ustedes van a poder encontrar la agenda en el enlace de pláticas del chat.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to move us to our next slide. Oops. Here, just want to give folks some information about interpretation if you need it. We want to welcome Isabel. You've been hearing from her already. We have live Spanish interpretation available for this event. You can see these directions here on the left-hand side. We need to know if folks need that translation. And sorry, I'm looking at the directions, and Isabel, I think you.
Vamos a tener enfrente de ustedes, frente a ustedes tienen las instrucciones para que pasen al otro salón. Están todas las instrucciones. Tenga en cuenta que las cosas que debe usted de hacer, no sé si es necesario que yo se las lea y me voy a permitir leerlas. Tiene usted que entrar a partir del audio, marcar dial in y después de ahí, esto no lo va a poder hacer desde su teléfono. Una vez que usted haya entrado en la reunión con esas opciones de audio en los controles, haga un clic en el botón que dice interpretación, que tiene el símbolo de un globo, de un mundo, y de ahí seleccione español como su idioma y escuchará mi voz a un volumen regular con el audio en inglés reproduciéndose en voz baja en el fondo. Si solo desea escuchar español, use los controles de la reunión de Zoom o en el botón de alterno para hacer un clic en el botón que dice silenciar el audio original y así usted no escuchará nada en inglés.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna give folks a second in case they need the Spanish interpretation. Oops, sorry, not quite yet. All right, and with that, my name is Jill Hogendijk. I'm the Associate Superintendent for the Educational Services Department in the Berkeley Unified School District. We're really glad to see so many folks here. We're almost at 120 participants, so this is really exciting. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our superintendent, Ms. Anikia Ford-Marthel.
Thank you, Jill. Good evening, everyone. I was smiling and I was going to say how excited I am to see all of your faces. And then I scrolled and realized we are in webinar form, so I don't see any faces except the faces that I see every day. Our amazing team, but I definitely can feel the energy of the 100+ folks who are here. And so I sincerely say greetings and welcome to our first joint committee meeting. I, again, am Anikia Ford-Marthel, the superintendent of Berkeley Unified School District. And I come saying welcome and bringing greetings on behalf of myself, our leadership team and staff throughout Berkeley Unified, as well as our Board of Education, whose names and pictures you see here, our President, Laura Babbitt, our Vice President, Anna Vasudev, and then our 3 directors, Jennifer Shinaski, Khadijah Brown, and Mike Chang. We start off every single meeting. You all likely have been in several BUSD meetings as advisory committee chairs or just as parts of various advisory committees. And so you know that we start off every meeting really grounding ourselves in our shared why, and that is our mission statement. And our mission here in BUSD is to enable and inspire our diverse student body to achieve academic excellence and make positive contributions to the world. I have said and continue to say that that's a pretty bold and ambitious mission, and I am here for it. But that was not enough for Berkeley. On top of that goal, we have 4 values or promises that we make to you and to the babies that we serve, and those are known as our 4 E's. And they're going to come up on the screen as soon as I say them, I'm sure. Excellence, equity, enrichment, and engagement. As soon as I say them, they're going to come on the screen. Watch, I'm going to say them again. There we go. Excellence, equity, enrichment, and engagement. So welcome you all again, and really think it's important for you all to not just hear that mission every time, but to really think about how your role as members of the advisory committee is in service of this mission, so that even though you are not or might not be officially a BUSD staff member or educator, we believe that you and your partnership is essential for us to make that mission and those 4 E's real and true for every student in Berkeley Unified School District. Next slide, please. Next slide again. So let me tell you why I'm excited. I'm excited because, well, I'm excited to feel you, can't see you. I'm excited to feel you, but I'm also excited because this is a new opportunity and something new that we're trying. And this is something that we're trying and doing in response to a lot of feedback that we've heard from you all, in response to many observations that we've made over the past year. And that is that we have a number of amazing committees in Berkeley Unified. We have so many of you amazing folks doing great work. And we find that there is oftentimes or few spaces where these groups and this work can come together. And so we are excited to launch our first joint district committee meeting with the goal of having a number of these committee meetings throughout the year, with the intent, first and foremost, to make sure that we're able to remember and remind ourselves that we are all in service of that mission statement and those 4 E's that I showed previously, and an opportunity for us to share best practices, learn from one another, and hear the other things that are going on in our districts and the work that is happening on other advisory committees. We also want to leverage this joint district committee setting to be a place where we can really move towards and lift the idea of coherence and organizational clarity, in that you will get messages all at the same time, all in the same way. One of the feedbacks we've heard is that, I might come to different committees and speak, or someone else might come and speak, and we're speaking on the same thing, but you're hearing it in different times. You might be getting part of it or all of it, and you're not able to hear the questions that other participants or other committee members ask in response to that information. And so this joint committee meeting is an opportunity for us to share information all at once, to make sure you're all getting the information and getting it in the same way, and with the extra benefit of you hearing from one another as we engage in question and answer around the things that we're sharing. So with that, I say welcome. And with that, I also want to make sure that you see and note the dates of our joint committee meetings for the remainder of this year. I want to make sure to also say that these are in addition to the advisory meetings that your respective advisory committees will be having throughout the year. And we will cover a number of topics. Today, we're really going to focus on really understanding our role as committee members, advisory committee members, but we will also be coming back every single time, sharing important district information. We will have times throughout the year where we share district data, general district data, and then also data that's specific to the advisory committee that you are a part of. We will definitely have many sessions where we highlight and go deep into our budget, and we will also engage you all as our critical partners as we move towards creating our new LCAP, or Local Control Accountability Plan, as well as diving into the very important work of creating a strategic plan for Berkeley Unified School District, which is our goal for the end of this school year. A whole bunch of you all are here, over 100, and this slide shows just a few of the advisory committees that you represent. And so we're going to move on to the next slide so we can get into the meat of this presentation. I said I'm here greetings and welcoming you from myself and our amazing staff, but I wanted to highlight a few of those staff in particular, as these are the folks with whom you're going to interface with the most. We have Jill Hogendijk, who is our Associate Superintendent of BUSD. We have Dr. Matthew Espinosa, Carla Gaden, Danielle Perez, Chris Albach, Yasmina Vidashek, Kathy Fleming, and Lisa Estupin. And I went really quickly because each of them is going to now really quickly tell you about which of the advisory committees they liaison and facilitate. So with that, I'm going to push mute. And why don't we just go in the order of the slides? the pictures. So Dr. Espinosa.
Thank you and good evening. I'm Dr. Matthew Espinosa Castro, and under our Department of Equity, Achievement, and Belonging, as part of our African American Success Framework, we have formed the Superintendent's African American Success Advisory Committee. And so that's who I'm here representing today.
Hello, I'm Carla Gayden, and I am here representing our Comprehensive Coordinated Early Intervening Services. It's not a committee, but our general ed partners.
Hi, everyone. I support the SSCs at each school site, and I also assist Director Fleming in supporting the Planning and Oversight Committee district-wide.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Christopher Albeck. I am the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, K-12, and I am here representing our fabulous DLAC.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yasmina Viteskich, and I am the co-chair of the Gender Equity and Sexual Harassment Advisory Committee.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kathy Fleming, and I work with the Planning and Oversight Committee, which provides oversight for two of our parcel taxes, BSEP and BERA, and I help provide support for the school site committees.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Estepin. I'm the director of the Categorical and Special Projects Department, and I support the Parent Advisory Committee in the district, the mighty Parent Advisory Committee that works with our LCAP.
Thank you, team. So I want to quickly go over our proposed agenda for this evening. We are in the middle of our introductions and welcomes, but we're going to spend the majority of time really thinking about the roles and responsibilities of our district and site committees in general, understanding a little bit about the resources that each of those committees are responsible for. And then we're going to take some time to get some feedback from you all before transitioning to breakout meetings. The objectives of our time here this evening is really for you to understand your role and the responsibilities of being an advisory committee member. We want to make sure that everyone can answer what is an advisory committee and what rules govern these groups. We want to make sure that you know how your committee works and how your committee does not sit in a silo, but that it's actually in service of and support of district priorities. We also want to make sure you understand which plans or actions or frameworks your group is responsible for, even though we're all responsible for all of it, again, towards that shared mission. And we want to make sure that you understand what guidelines and training resources are available so that you can be the best advisory committee participant that you can be. And then again, we're going to break out with the majority of our groups going to another session, which is either a site or district meeting. Next slide, please. So in this next section, we're going to answer 3 questions. What is an advisory committee? What are advisory committee responsibilities, and what guidelines must advisory committees follow? But before we do that, next slide, we are all teachers in this room. So of course, we got a pop quiz. We want to see which of these you can answer correctly. There are 3 true or false questions, and I'm going to let Danielle give you instructions and launch this poll.
Should now be open. Please go ahead and respond on your screens. We're going to leave this for about a minute. Thank you.
We're all about using our resources here, but do not Google, nor do you phone a friend. We want to know what's your first answer as you think about these true or false questions. Okay,
Seeing a lot of responses, so we're going to give it another 15 seconds. You have 15 more seconds.
I can't wait to see this.
5 seconds to go. 2, 1. All right, our poll is closed. Would you like me to share the results for everyone to see?
Go ahead and share the results.
All
So
right.
70% of you say that it is false that everyone who attends a committee meeting can vote. Ooh, and 30% of you all say that it's true. 91% of you say that all committees governed by the Green Act have the option to meet virtually. 9% say it's false. And then we have 61% of you who believe that the site SIPSA goals are the same as the district LCAP goals. Sorry, 61% say they're not the same. And then 39% of you said, yep, they're the same. Well, you know, we're teachers again, so we're not going to give the answers yet. We're actually going to go through some more content, and we're going to see if you can find out if your response was accurate or not. And then we're going to also make sure we give you the right response as we go. So the next slide, please. So I really want to take some time here and be clear that Berkeley Unified really believes in the importance of partnership, co-creation, and collaboration with you, our families, and our babies' caring adults. That we really believe that everyone has something important to contribute, and that we know what we know, and you know what you know, and what everybody knows is super valuable and important. And so what we really hope is that through all of these advisory committees, regardless of which one you're on, that you experience it as truly a collaborative space, a space that you feel welcome to share your experiences and the experiences of others, your ideas and your recommendations, and a reciprocal space that you're not just there to get, but you're also there to give, again, in service of our shared mission and those 4 E's. Now, a couple of things I want to point out about an advisory committee and the role of advisory committee members is that the word that is important for us to really focus on for a second is advisory. And that is important because there's sometimes confusion in that, particularly as we're working in our own individual group, and you think that we said this and then it is so. And though a lot of the things that you all say are amazing and great, we want to make sure that what we're saying and what we're moving to do is actually not creating more confusion, is actually in alignment with the goals of the district, the priorities for the district, and that we are doing things that really address the needs of our diverse student learners. And so these committees are actually just that, advisory, in the advisory capacity. We want you to come and make recommendations. Sometimes, most times it's directly to me. I take those recommendations to the board. In the case of the school site council, sometimes that might be to the principal, but to whoever the person that you're making recommendations for, it's important for you to understand that you are a collaborative partner, a co-creator, and you are advising, giving guidance, and that guidance should be informed. So a part of our role in these committees is to provide you information, is to provide you data, is to answer your questions so that you can make the most informed recommendations and give the most informed advice. Now, the advice that you're giving is not just your advice, though we appreciate and value the fact that you yourselves are members of this community, that likely you have babies who attend our schools and are in our classrooms. But really, the important thing for you to think about and hold, which is sometimes hard, is that you are a representative as a member of these advisory committees. And what that means is that, of course, you bring your truth and your baby's experiences, and a part of your role is to also bring in the experiences, the ideas, the viewpoints of others in your school community and others that you represent. So when you're coming, you are bringing your lens, but you've been thoughtful to gather feedback. You are going to ask for information, etc., when you come to represent those who you truly are there to represent. The other piece is that it's really going to be important that you recognize that these meetings, because they are reciprocal and because they are collaborative, are never set up for staff to just come and give you information. It's not a sit and get. It's going to be time for you to kind of grapple with some challenging things with staff, for you to look at data and ask hard questions of staff, for you to come in and give some suggestions to staff or give some ideas of what you think might be a good fix or a good solution or a good next step. These are places where with staff, you evaluate the work that BUSD is doing, and then identify, places where there might be gaps and needs for new or different movements, as well as areas of strength as well. So these places and spaces are kind of workspaces, if you will, and we hope that you're coming in ready to kind of roll up your sleeves and do some really hard work with us as we, again, work together towards our mission. We also want to make sure that you know that a critical part of being on an advisory committee is your responsibility to review and monitor the implementation of your group's respective plan, as well as budget and implementation or impact measures. What that means is that you have to know and understand your group's plan, you have to know and understand your group's measure and metrics, and you have to be present for those budget meetings. Again, all in service of you being able to make informed recommendations to your advisory group. And then finally, as is inherent in the name, you are an advisory committee and your job is to advise and recommend, but wanted to make sure you're always clear on who you're advising or making recommendations to. And again, that could be the principal, district staff, and or me, the superintendent, who makes recommendations to the board as appropriate. Next slide, please. I didn't answer that first question. The first question, the true or false question, is that it is actually false. It is not that anyone who attends the committee meeting can vote. It is only the members of those committees that can do the voting for lots of reasons. However, for these meetings, we have public comments and we have opportunities, again, for you to go out into your community and get ideas and get feedback and get information. And so that is how we bring the ideas and suggestions of others to the floor, if you will. Next slide. So the other question was about the Green Act, and it was a question around are all committees governed by the Green Act, and they are all governed by the Green Act, but do they all have the option to meet virtually? And here on this screen, we first want to let you know that there are 2 acts. There's probably a whole bunch of more acts, but the acts that you really need to know about are the Brown Act and the Green Act. The Brown Act really governs legislative bodies, including our school board. The Green Act is the one we want you to focus on this evening, as that is the act that really governs and sets the legal requirements for parent advisory committees and school site councils. Next slide, please. And so if you look here, you'll see that the general purpose of the Green Act, you'll see the decision-making processes of the Green Act, and you will also see that there are no restrictions for teleconferencing on the Green Act. And so the question was, all committees governed by the Green Act have the option to meet virtually? And the answer is yes, you can meet virtually as a Green Act committee. A couple things to call out about the Green Act is that it is still an act that is governed by, law. So it is an official committee. You do need to have an agenda. You do need to make sure that you have public comments. You do need to make sure that, again, only members are able to vote. And you also need to make sure that you're bringing in the ideas and perspectives of others, and you're posting and letting folks know when your meetings will take place so that others can participate. I'm going to pause right here to see if there's anything else about the Green Act that my team would like us to highlight. All right, Jill.
All right. So the superintendent has shared a little bit about our roles and responsibilities as committee members and the Green Act that governs how business is conducted. And we also have a number of district plans. Some of your committees are directly connected to these individual plans. You see here, we have our LCAP, we have our CSACE plan, we have a literacy action plan, the African American Success Framework, the Multilingual Learner Master Plan, we have board resolutions and our BSEP measure. And so some of you are connected to one or more of these plans. And these are the actions that really, these are the plans that really guide some of the work from those committees. It's important to know in the context of the LCAP, that's our local control and accountability plan. It's a state required plan for our district to support specific student populations. Our students that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, our English language learners, and our foster youth, but also has some district-wide actions. There are 5 goals there, and those 5 goals, to the last true-false question, are directly aligned to each school site council's plan, the school plan for student achievement, or SIPSA. In the context of all of that work, we are really aiming to impact what's happening in the classroom, that the work that's happening with our teachers and our students is getting us the outcomes that we aspire to achieve so that we can achieve our district mission and the excellence, equity, enrichment, and engagement. We want to support our site administrators and other site-based staff and the work that they're doing to impact the teaching and learning happening in the classroom. And then we have our central office that also works to support each of our schools. So again, that work from the SIPSAs that are the primary document for our school site councils is aligned to our LCAP. And so we just want to acknowledge, right, that we've got a whole lot of plans and a whole lot of groups, and sometimes the experience of that is that it's working, those things are working in silos. And we really are aiming in this context of the shift that we're making this year to the joint advisory committees to help us get to a stronger alignment across those plans so that we're really functioning as a unified school district toward a common purpose to achieve academic excellence for each and every one of our students. All right, Superintendent, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
You took my puzzle slide. That was my puzzle slide, Jill. I think that was my puzzle slide. But to her point, we are doing all this work together, even though, again, we will be together as joint committee, and then you'll go into your separate advisory committee groups. We do hope that you hold this idea of the puzzle in mind. You're going to go and do your work on your piece, on your plan, but really making sure that you remember that you are a part of a larger and bigger picture. And the other thing, earlier I talked about making recommendations, and I talked about the budgets, et cetera. What is oftentimes true in spaces where committees don't recognize that they are a part of a bigger puzzle, or that they together create the picture, the big picture, is that there is, we want this and we want that, and there's competition. And what we hope to do is, again, continue to remind each other that we're all working together towards the same goal, that we're all a part of the big picture, and really make space for all of us to hear what the various different pieces of the puzzle are doing and need, because we're not going to be able to meet the needs or respond to every recommendation or every budget ask, et cetera. And so we're hoping that this process helps us actually move towards that picture, but it also provides clarity for you all as you're engaging in this work as advisory committees, so that when it is time for budget season, et cetera, you really are informed and understand the decisions that we're going to be making and why. Jill mentioned the LCAP, and that was actually one of the parts of the question above, but want to also make sure that regardless of your advisory committee, every single person, the same way that we are doing this work in service of our shared mission, every single advisory committee is working in service of one of these 5, if not all of these goals. The work that you're doing should always be kind of grounded in our set intention to provide high quality classroom instruction and curriculum for all of our babies. It's always rooted in our desire and our understanding that we need necessary and timely academic interventions. It is all aligned to and grounded in our decisions and our understanding that if our babies are not safe and welcomed, if they don't feel included, and if there's not a positive climate and culture, then they will not thrive academically or otherwise. And so really making sure that we have those conditions in our schools, and that we are engaged in progress monitoring. And so we do ask that these goals are shared at every meeting as well, if possible, or at least there's periodic opportunities for us to really reground ourselves in that. Next slide. We also think that it's really, really important for all of us when we're together as one big puzzle, or when we're all in our individual advisory committees, to remember that as a district and as a system, if we are really trying to move towards that very ambitious mission statement that we said earlier, then we have to be invested and intentional about engaging in continuous improvement. And what that means is that we know and understand, and we're humble enough to admit that our recommendations or our plans, right, on their own will not solve all of the issues that we're trying to grapple with in education, won't on their own close the achievement and opportunity gaps that exist in Berkeley and in other places, and won't alone make sure those 4 E's are real and true. That as we do this work, we have to be able to stop and progress monitor to ask ourselves, what are we trying to improve, but to really have those hard conversations around, are we actually moving towards that improvement? And if we're not, let's explore and ask ourselves, why not? What do we need to tweak or change? If we are, let's take the opportunity to learn and figure out why we are, so that we can scale those things towards sustained efforts and momentum. And that we're always in conversations around how do we know that we're actually moving towards the changes that we want to make happen. And so that is really also embedded in each advisory committee, really knowing and understanding their plans, as well as understanding and knowing their metrics, and how those metrics and measures and those plans again, support the larger district priorities, our LCAP goals, as you saw in the previous slide, and ultimately our district's mission. So with that, still teachers, we have another quiz for you.
All right, so as our superintendent shared, we are all educators, so we had to do another quiz. And so the questions are up here. We'll leave it for about a minute and we'll see what we get. See some answers coming in. We have about 35 seconds left. All right, 15 more seconds. All right, the poll is about to close, so please try to get your answers in. Okay, the poll is closed. All right, so on the slide, you can see our 3 questions. I'm actually going to start with the true and false questions first. First question is, the PAC advises on the multilingual learner master plan. According to the poll, it's pretty close. We have 47% of folks thinking that that is true, and about 53% thinking that that is false. So I will go into that a little bit later. And give you the answers to that. And then the next true and false question is, you can find agendas for the district committee meetings on the district committee web pages. So 94% said true and 6% said false. And then the last question, I'll go into that a little bit too, is where do you find district and site committee resources? 12% said school website, 9% said in your site plan, and 79% said district committee training resources webpage. So with that being said, I would like, if Jill, you could please click on the link. I do want to share that we have a committee website, and we'll share. Oh, not this one. I think there's another link. Oh, not this one either. It's let me see. If we go back to the slide, sorry, y'all. To the one with the quick check. If we could go back to that slide, please. Perfect. Okay. There's a link. Yes, there's a link on the bottom in the notes.
Sorry, it keeps scanning. Oh, I don't have the notes up, Lisa.
Okay. So
hold on a second. Let me see if I can.
I'm gonna put it.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jill. So on this webpage, it's the list of all of our committees. And if you scroll, you'll see all of the committees that we have and a little bit of a blurb of what the committee entails. So could you please click on the LCAP Parent Advisory Committee one? I just wanted to share one of the answers to the questions on our poll that obviously I help support the LCAP of the PAC and the LCAP. And so on here, you'll see there's some information about the LCAP, which is who the PAC, the plan that the PAC advises on. And then if you scroll a little bit lower, you'll see there's meeting information, the dates, the day of the week and the time of our meetings. And then for this upcoming year, you see the first meeting is our PAC orientation meeting and that we had, and then today. And then as the year progresses, the agenda and the notes will be on there. And if you keep scrolling, we have a historical place where you can click on the agendas and the minutes of previous meetings. So potentially all of the committees in our district has information like this on the associated webpage. Okay, next slide, please. On this slide, we really wanted to share committee training resources that are available to you. So there is a link. So yes, Jill, if you please click. Oh, we're here. And on this webpage, we have a buffet of training videos that we hope that all of you have been able to view. And these are videos that can support you in the work ahead of you this year. Some of you have already been in committees for a number of years, and some of you may be brand new. So we feel that these training videos will really help you, begin your journey or continue your journey into the committees. So on the district committee training resources, you can find these training videos on the various committees. Furthermore, there's like SSC information such as committee handbook. There's also information on the uniform complaints procedure. There's also a link to the Office of Family Engagement and Equity that holds an array of resources. There's also the current and historical school plans for student achievements from every school site in the district. So you can see the most current one that we're actively using for this year, as well as all of the previous years. So our hope is that if you have not already browsed this webpage or visited this webpage, that you please do so, because there's an array of resources that you can utilize. And now I'd like to hand it over to Director Albeck.
Thank you. So Superintendent Ford Morthell has talked a little bit about the committees, and Associate Superintendent Ms. Hogendijk has talked a little bit about the plans, and I would like to connect some of the dots and also clarify some of the many acronyms. And before I do so, I just want to recognize and acknowledge all of the stakeholders that are here tonight. Fully understand there are site leaders, there are teachers, there are teacher leaders, there are families, there are board directors, there might even be some students. And when I look at all of these committees that we have here, it really reminds me of our entire school district and the 137 of you that are here currently. We fully recognize there's a lot going on in the hearts and minds of all of us right now. And I think it's very imperative that we remember that Berkeley is a unified school district, and the 140 of you that are here spending your time with us tonight really reminds us of the unified nature that our school district is. So thank you again for being here tonight. We'll go over each of these fairly quickly and just connecting the dots between the committee and the plan. So the first one that has been discussed is the school site committees, and those are the plans that are responsible for the SIPSA. The second committee is the English Language Advisory Committee, or the ELAC, and this is also the school plan for student achievement. The third one, I think this was a quiz question, the PAC, or the Parent Advisory Committee, and the plan that represents that is the LCAP, or the Local Control Accountability Plan. The fourth committee here is the District English Learner Advisory Committee, who I have the privilege of representing tonight. And the plan that we are connecting to this committee, or that is connected, is the Multilingual Learner Master Plan. The next committee is the P&O, or the Planning and Oversight Committee, which is responsible for the BSEP and BERA annual plans. Next slide, please. We also have our Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee, or known as SBAC, and this informs our annual district budget. Next, we have our African American Success Advisory Committee, the AASAC, which informs our African American Success Framework. We have our Gender Equity and Sexual Harassment Advisory Committee, which informs our district policies around discrimination, sexual harassment, gender identity and access, and transgender and gender and non-conforming students. And lastly, we have our CSACE Committee, or Comprehensive Coordinated Early Intervening Services Education Partners, which informs our CSACE plan. And I'll pass it over to Director Fleming for a little bit about BSEP.
Really quickly, Mr. Albeck, I apologize, Kathy. I just wanted to make one point on this slide and just highlight that the Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee is similar to this joint advisory committee, in that that is the one space where all the committees are represented. And so the African American Success Advisory Committee, GSHAC, PAC, et cetera, all of those committees have representatives that are then part of the Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee. And that is the space where we spend the majority of the time looking at the budget. So I just wanted to clarify, it's not a separate committee as the other ones are. You all make up that committee. So thank you for that, Chris.
Thank you, Superintendent. So now we're going to shift and look at some resources for a few minutes. And as you can see, this represents our general fund this year, and it's comprised of various resources, federal, state, and local. The majority of our funding comes from our state LCFF-based funding. And you can also see that the BSEP and BERA together are more than 20% of our district's budget. While some of these dollars are discretionary, the school site committees will be working on budgeting many of these resources. Next slide, please. And our focus right now is on BSEP, our Berkeley Schools Excellence Program. As you may have heard, it's up for renewal in March 2024. And we're currently in process with our board to review and approve the measure language for the next measure. We just had first reading last night, and we'll have second reading and approval of the measure language for the ballot on November 1st. BSEP, as you know, is very important to our school sites and our district-wide activities, funding our smaller class size, academic support positions, social emotional support positions such as counselors, and our great music and VAPA program, as well as our school libraries. Over 10% of the BSEP allocation goes directly to school sites, and you, with your principal, will decide how to spend these dollars. And this year it represents $3.6 million. So please keep BSEP on your mind. We need everyone to keep the BSEP buzz alive at your school sites and share the good news of all the great things that BSEP is doing at your schools. Now we shift over to Dr. Espinosa Castro, who will go over what's on the horizon for us.
All right. Well, BSEP buzz, that's when we want to keep that going. BSEP buzz. All right. So we've kind of made it towards the end of our session together. Hopefully we've all survived, thrived, and we're excited to stretch because that's going to come up soon. We're going to ask that you complete an information and feedback form for us. It's both important for us in our monitoring and check and compliance and other aspects, but also in informing the work that we're doing together in the future joint committee meetings. So we'll take a stretch break, but then at 7 o'clock, you'll have the opportunity to check in with other members of your specific site team or district level committee, and we'll share with you the links for that. And know that, you know, in the coming month, there's opportunities to continue working with your site and your district specific committee meetings. The next joint committee meeting is going to be on the 16th of November. And as we kind of move along through this process, all of this work that we've identified to meet together and talk about is working to inform a broader strategic plan driven by our local control accountability plan, those goals that are the same between our school site councils and our SIPSAs and our LCAP. And so there's certain things that we all want to do together and talk about together, and some of those, and this provides a space for that. So in the upcoming months, there's a chance for us to think about some of the themes that came from the feedback form, as well as to discuss and engage in some outreach to the community in the development of the LCAP. There's going to be several rounds of surveys, and we hope that you all will be advocates for not just completing and getting feedback, giving feedback yourself, but encouraging others, especially those who may be less likely to respond, to get their response and their feedback in. In our meetings together, we'll be bringing data, we'll be bringing some of that information to this group to process as well and get feedback. January to February, there's a chance to review some mid-year data and begin to develop and refine plans and actions that are going to go into the LCAP. And then March through April, there's work to make sure that we've aligned all of our measures with the official required metrics of the CDE dashboard and make sure to connect those to action plans. And then May to June is when we actually finalize the LCAP and prepare local indicators. So I know those of you that are involved in the PAC are very familiar with this, but because this is kind of a driving force, this is our district-wide plan, everything else is kind of feeding into this. So it's really important for us to all be familiar and aware of that. All right, Kathy.
All right, folks, doing a time check. We have about 10 minutes before we start our SSC meetings. So I'm going to orient you to our feedback form. We'll have this slide up in the transition. You can do the grab off the QR code, or you can go to your agenda and use the link in the agenda, and we'll put that is in the chat. Maybe we can post that again. And then next slide, please, Jill. And then after you do the feedback form, please make your way to the links for your either school site committee meeting or your district-wide committee meeting. And these meetings will be happening at the same time. So you can access the links in the agenda and also through the PDF of the slide deck. The slide deck is also linked in the agenda. So everything is accessible through the agenda. So while we're transitioning, we'll keep the webinar open for those who are having difficulty getting to your next meeting. And with that, can we go back to the previous slide, Jill? We're going to conclude this session. We thank you all for being here and for your time and commitment to your committees and your school communities to help us bring great programs and education to all of our students. Superintendent Ford Morthell, would you like to say a closing sentiment?
I just want to say thank you in advance for the work that we're going to do together on behalf of the babies of Berkeley Unified School District. We show the puzzle piece, and we do want to be clear that it is really important that you focus on your piece of the puzzle and do it with intentionality and strategy. And it's really important that we also remember that we come back together, and I'm excited to come back together with you all at the various times throughout the year for our joint committee meeting, and to engage with you all as members of the Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee as we go into budget season, and in general as we work on our new LCAP and our district-wide strategic plan. So looking forward to the partnership and all the work that we're going to do together. Thank you, Kathy.